Welcome back, everybody. I'm Adam Lowe, and if you listened before, you know I can talk about the towpath all day.
And I'm Chris Earl. If it's an ultra, a backyard, or some ridiculous running challenge, I'm probably signing up for it.
And I'm Katie Lowe. I love all things running, but my specialties are run streaking and the beer mile.
Together, we're here to share the stories that make running such an incredible community.
From local legends to elite athletes, race directors, and everyday runners, we'll cover the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
So whether you're out for a run, driving to your next race, or just hanging out, thanks for joining us.
This is Tales on the Towpath. Let's get started. Chris and Katie. Hey, well, episode 41 is sure to deliver. Today, we got a guy whose race results are absolutely incredible. And honestly, they're a little ridiculous. He's been busy collecting wins at races like Burning River, Highland Sky 40, which is Katie's favorite, Hurricane 100K, Kanawha Trace, Canal Corridor 100, Rim to River 100. Yeah, you guys get the idea. And when he's not winning, he's usually battling it out for podium spots at races like Western States, Javelina 100, and Grindstone against some of the best ultra runners in the country. So today we're going to talk about how he got into the sport, what it takes to compete at that level, the highs, the lows, and maybe even if he has a bad day out on the trails. Because judging by ultra sign up, we're starting to wonder if that ever happens. So, Caleb Bowen, thanks for joining us. We truly appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Thank you guys for inviting me. This is awesome.
This is going to be a lot of fun, and I know our listeners are going to be inspired and encouraged from listening to you. So, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then you can start getting into like how you got started in the running.
Yeah. So I am the head cross country coach, assistant track coach at Marshall University. It's a small mid-major university located in like the southeast corner of West Virginia. You could probably throw a football to Ohio if you can throw across the Ohio River. So Ohio's right there, and then Kentucky's about 8 miles away. So we're in the tri-state area. Very blessed to be able to work with some great athletes. Some of my athletes have continued to run and do some great things like Dan Green, Alex Miner, Holly Ann Swan, Abby Herring, Kylie Masson, and there's several others. So it's been really cool and really blessed to be able to have a small little part in their story and their journey as a runner. How I got started in running. So the real story starts whenever I was like 7, 8 years old. I lived in a neighborhood and all my friends used to ride their bikes. And for some reason, I was like terrified of riding bikes. So I tried, I failed, and I didn't really want to keep falling down. So I just decided to run. And I would run with my friends while they biked. Now, eventually, I did learn how to ride a bike, but that was like the birth of me just going out there and running. A little bit after that, my dad was trying to lose weight, get fit. So he started running, and he was kind of like the Forrest Gump, where he would run around the house for a couple times, and then that turned into running down the street, running down the road, and then started running 5Ks, 15-mile races, marathons, and so on. So definitely looked up to him whenever I was growing up, and saw that he ran, so I definitely wanted to be like that as well. Then in middle school, I guess I signed up for cross country, and that was a big part of me falling in love with running. And then did track, did that throughout high school, and ultimately walked on to the Marshall University cross country team back in 2011. And then things just happened to work out, and ended up as a coach. So that's kind of like my journey as a runner.
So you said you ran at Marshall. Can you tell us a little bit more about your experience with college running?
Yeah, definitely. So I wasn't like the fastest runner, meaning like I wasn't very good at like the mid distance stuff. I was definitely somebody with a big aerobic engine. I could run for a lot longer than what others would. I had a pretty high lactate threshold, so I was able to do a lot of the longer stuff. The 8Ks and 10Ks were my favorite. Yeah, so I walked on as a freshman, and we had a pretty good team at that time. A lot of seniors were on the team. So it was a real fight to get into that top seven. And some of the older guys, they were not trying to make me feel bad, but they were just trying to prepare me. They were basically preparing me to sit like to redshirt rather than to compete that freshman year. Because that's pretty common. You'll find that as athletes will come in, they'll redshirt their freshman year and then have 4 more years. Well, I didn't really want to do that, so I tried to prove a point and ended up making the varsity 7 just by putting my nose to the grindstone, running a lot more miles than I ever had before. And ultimately, it worked out. I mean, I stayed healthy for the most part and ultimately was in the top, I would say 5 through 7. I was never in that like top 4, top 3, but I was a consistent 5 through 7 guy, which is pretty cool. And then from then on out, sophomore year, had a little sophomore slump. I trained harder than I ever did before, was running more 100-mile weeks and stuff. And started off seasons great, but then I would always get passed by some of my more talented, less volume type runners. And that was very frustrating because, as you know, if you work harder, you think you should just automatically be better. And that's not the case at all. Like sometimes talent just beats hard work, and that's okay. By the time I was a senior, I finally figured some things out and was more in tune with my body, but also in tune with my training, trusted my coach a little bit more, and ultimately was our number one guy my senior year. And then yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, we only had a cross country team. We ran track, but we only had like 5 or 6 meets throughout the year. It was kind of like not club, but non-traditional season. That's what they call it. So we didn't have a full indoor, outdoor, full slate. It was more just training to stay in shape for the cross country season.
So you obviously must have fallen in love with the Marshall area and the program. Talk us through that transition from going from being a runner on the team to eventually ending up as the coach. How did all that happen?
Well, to be honest, I was just planning on being the GA, like the graduate assistant. I was hoping to get my master's degree paid for. I graduated my bachelor's degree in education, and really my ultimate goal was to be that high school coach, the high school social studies teacher. Everybody has a cool story about one of those. So that was my experience in high school as well. I had a really great mentor who was a social studies teacher as well. So that was the goal. But then Coach Small, who was my head coach, actually offered me an assistant coaching job instead. And I was like, well, shoot, I might as well do that for as long as I can. So became the assistant coach in 2015 and never left. There's definitely challenges, especially being a younger looking guy, because you come in, you were their teammates, and all of a sudden you're their coach. So there had to be a big separation. Like I couldn't hang out with my friends anymore who were younger than me because they were not my teammates anymore. They were my athletes. Um, so that was a little difficult, but ultimately it's just try to gain the confidence to be a coach, to be that leader, and that's something that I still kind of deal with today because a lot of my guys and my girls are really fun to hang out with. Not like hanging out, but like I can joke around with them. But at some point, it's I'm the coach. They have to do their job, and I have to do my job. So that's the toughest part, just not being their friends, but being their coach.
Are you full time? Like, is the head coach of Marshall, is that your full time job along with running, or do you have a quote unquote real job as well?
No, it's my full-time job, so it's pretty inclusive where we're always busy, even in the summer times, which is our downtime, but it's always recruiting, planning ahead for the next year. I handle the travel, so a lot of the summertime is, getting the hotel contracts lined out, getting the bus contracts. I'm also the meet director for our home meets, so I have to line up officials, have to get the itineraries, send out the invitations, stuff like that. I mean, it's not too crazy, especially this time of year, but if you wait too long, it'll end up being crazy. So you might as well work every day rather than wait till the very end. But yeah, recruiting's always like you're never done recruiting, unfortunately, because there's always it's a tough balance where you can always make another recruiting call. So it's good to take a step back sometimes, and that's why I think ultra running is really good for me because it gives me an outlet from the coaching side. But I mean, we live and die by our recruits. So we have to bring people in, bring better people in than what we had before, and constantly just selling our program.
And I got one more question on this. So what do you do when like Rim to River is November 7th, but like the Harvard meet that you have to go to is also November 7th? Are you flipping a coin to see which one you're gonna do, or how do you balance your running with the Marshall running?
Well, it's my job, so a lot of times I have to sacrifice the ultra running as much as it pains me. But at the end of the day, their running is way more important than mine. So yeah, that's actually it's been a frustration this past year because some of my favorite races or races I want to do fall on meet days. This year I'm not able to do Javelina because it's on our conference championship weekend. So that's been a really painful one to get over because that's a race that I feel like I'm finally figuring it out. and took a great stride last year compared to 2024. But it will eventually be there whenever I can do it. Same for Black Canyon though. You said Harvard, and actually it's a good point because Boston is on the Black Canyon weekend, and
Okay.
Boston's like the main meet you go to in indoor season. So that's been a heartbreaker as well. But the one good thing is Coach Roberts, he's my boss. He's the director of track and field and cross country. He loves my ultra running. Now I don't go to him a lot to get out of stuff, but I think every so often, especially if it's not like super important meet, like this year I'm looking at maybe possibly asking to do like canyons or gorge waterfalls again. So if it's a light weekend, maybe we can have a weekend off from meets because we try to find some weekends where we can do that. We just have to make it work with the team and not just being selfish with it.
Yeah. Well, so for our younger listeners, what's one recommendation you would make for a runner who wants to run during college?
Yeah, I saw that question. That's a really tough one. I think falling in love with it is the main thing because in college, like a lot of high schoolers run because they have to. Either their parents signed them up for it, or maybe all their friends are on the team, so they feel compelled to do it. But when in college, it's really you find out if you're really intrinsically motivated for it because it's all on you. Like your college coach will be there to push you, but at the end of the day, like you have to be the one to wake up early and run. You have to be the one to figure out your nutrition plan to be able to fuel all the miles you're doing. You have to be the one to step on the line and go for it. So I think you have to fall in love with it. And that's a hard thing to do because sometimes it's not very fun. Waking up early and running a lot is hard. And I think what makes it better is having a group of guys or a group of girls that you really bond with and like feel like a family with, and you do it for them. So I guess fall in love with it, but also fall in love with the team. If you want to run in college, make sure you pick the right college that you fit in the most. Don't do it just for the accolades or oh, it's a D1 or D2. Like, make sure it's the right fit for you and not just the one you think looks better. Because that's something a lot of people fall in the trap of is Power Four versus mid major versus D2, D3. There's a place for everybody. If you want to run in college, there's a place for you. Just finding the right one is the tough part, but also it's the most rewarding part too.
I think that's so true. My daughter ran Division III in college, and she immediately clicked with her team. They were her best friends all 4 years, and it ended up being a great experience. She was an average at best high school runner, but really came into her own just because she found the right people. So yeah, that's good advice.
Wait, Sarah. I think you are better than average. If you listen to this, okay, I'll give you.
Well, I can also really relate to what you're saying because I did the opposite. I chose a school based on, oh, it's Division I, and they were like wooing me, right? And I loved my teammates. Nothing against my teammates, but I don't think I always saw eye to eye with my coaches. And that wasn't the perfect fit for me. And I left after 2 years and was just so burnt out on running. And I took some time off from it after that. But with that said, after you were done with your own college running, how did you transition into your post collegiate running? Did you start out on roads and then transition into trail, or did you just always love the trail from the get go?
So I definitely started on the road. I was looking forward to the marathon so much throughout college. Like I knew that's where like my best running would be was in the marathon because like I knew I was good at the 8K, pretty decent at the 10K. So it just was a natural progression. And everybody, watches the Boston Marathon videos. And my biggest role model in high school was Ryan Hall, back in his heyday. So I was excited for the marathon, and that was my first like training after I graduated was for my first marathon, and I did that like that next November, like after I graduated. So I was still coaching. I just started coaching, but hopped in a marathon. It was awful. I mean, I ran a decent time, but man, I went through it because fueling wasn't really a thing back in the mid to 20 teens. It was starting to come around, but it was more about just learning how to drink the Gatorade from the cup. Maybe once every 5 miles, or drinking half a cup of Gatorade. So yeah, I suffered a lot. I remember seeing a girl that I was friends with at mile 20, and I like had a tear in my eyes. Like this is really bad. But once I finished, like I was kind of hooked at that point. So I was fortunate enough to qualify for Boston with that run, and that was like the next big goal was to run Boston. And sure enough, I did, which was a lot of fun. I didn't really hit the trails until the following year. 2016 or 17 was my first Highland Sky. And it's kind of a fun story because my dad had run a 50K in January called the Frozen Sasquatch. It's right above Charleston. And he met a med school student who was also running, and they ended up talking to each other. Well, I got invited to med school prom by my roommates because I was bored, had nothing to do, and they were going. So I meet Daniel Crow, who was a med student at the time, and he immediately like knows me because my dad had just talked to him not that long ago. So we ended up talking about trail running for a good hour at this med school prom, and he convinced me to sign up for this 40-mile race. And I ended up doing Boston that spring and then got hurt. So I wasn't prepared, didn't train for it well. Longest run I had was like 15 miles. And I hop into this really technical, a little bit of everything race. And it just knocked my socks off how hard it was. Like I fell so many times. I actually bought a pair of Asics trail shoes from an outlet mall for like $30, and they were the worst shoes I've ever had in my life. Like I got eaten alive by the rocks up top in the boulder section. So I finished, I think I was like fifth, and like I swore to myself I'd never run another trail run again. And then the next like day I wanted to sign up for the next one. So that's just how it goes. But yeah, I fell in love with trail running through Highland Sky. That was a race that really challenged me and still challenges me. Like I don't think I'll ever be satisfied with my running career until I break that course record. Not because I think I can do it, but because I think it's like one of the hardest things to do and call in ultra running because it doesn't make any sense how somebody can run that fast on some of that stuff.
What's the course record now? Do you know off the top of your head?
So it's 5 hours and 43 minutes or 42 minutes.
Yes.
Crazy.
And
Like,
you've broken 6 hours though, right?
yeah, my fastest time was like 51 or 52
Okay.
back in 2023.
Yes.
And just so our listeners know, when Adam mentioned that was my favorite, he was being facetious. That I also signed up for this race having no idea what I was in for. Adam was like, "I'm going to sign up for it. Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. 40 miles, I can do that. Not well, but I could finish 40-mile race." And I had no idea what I was getting into. And it was all the things nightmares are made of for me. And I was not prepared. I'm a self-proclaimed not good trail runner, which I think I'm probably okay, but I'm only okay at best. And I was chasing cutoffs in a race, and in that race, and I've never had to worry about that before. Not that I'm super fast. It was just this like stressful situation. All that when you said it's technical, it's just all the things, all the major technical things that I can think of at least, or having a nightmare, like I said.
It's just so hard because it's hard for everybody. Like if you're a good trail runner, there's a bunch of road sections and exposed run sections that are really tough and hilly. But if you're or if you're a more of a road runner, man, some of the technical stuff, like you have a 1,000-foot drop down Boar's Nest Trail that is literally the rockiest. Like I don't know how people run fast on it. Like I don't know.
It was, yeah, it brought me to tears. So there's lots of stories from that race, but it was just funny because people who were very good at trail would just go blazing by. Adam ran with me, so he didn't run his own race, but they would go blazing by us on the trail sections. And then on the road sections, here we were just like cruising. And then I didn't understand how they ran so fast on the trail, but then we would just blow by them on those shorts. Well, I feel like it was short road sections. I needed a lot more of those. So anyway,
Yeah.
we can continue.
I thought that race was so easy. I decided to run even farther on it.
Did you get lost?
When you're going up the one ski slope and you get about halfway up and you have to make that left into the woods. My head was down.
Yeah.
I went all the way to the top. I got up there. There was
That's an
another
easy
woman.
one
She
to
was
do.
just circling the ski lift up there, trying to figure out where to go. And then after about 10 minutes of just like hands up in the air, I don't know what we're doing, we see somebody down below go into the woods. And so back down we went.
Putting some extra vert.
Yep.
Right.
All right. So, Caleb, Adam touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the episode when he was doing your introduction, but you have absolutely been on a tear this year with wins at, as he mentioned, Burning River, Highland Sky, Tatanka. Do you attribute any of that success to something that you started doing differently, or do you think this is just the culmination of your consistently building through your training?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything new. I think it's just been I've had a really good year of just good training because like 2024 was a really rough year where I tore my labrum but didn't really know until early 25 because it took so long to figure it out, go to the doctor, do the PT, get the MRI, get the arthrogram, and all the fun stuff. So early 2025 is at my breaking point, and is before I got the arthrogram. I actually met with Butch. I don't know if you guys know Butch Slayball, but he is in Blacksburg. He's a PT, but also a really good ultra runner, trail runner. We're friends. We've been friends for a while now. But we were at a track meet in Blacksburg, yeah, racing at Virginia Tech, and he knew I was struggling. I had to do like a 3 mile walk because my run didn't go well. So he took me to the training room, put me through a full array of tests and everything, and he told me something really assuring. He's like, Caleb, you're not super weak. You're hurt. It's okay to be hurt. You just have to get strong again. I was like, thank you for saying that. Because for, if you go to most trainers or PTs or doctors, they'll tell you you're weak because you have so many imbalances. Well, you're weak because you're hurt. Like you have something wrong with you that's preventing you from doing the things. So just taking that step back and really figuring out like how much I really love the sport and talking through him was really helpful. So once I got through that and started from zero and worked, babied my way up and did all the strength training and all of that, it took about a year to feel normal again. And a lot of the last summer was just working through things. I was able to race like decently well, but there's still things that would pop up every now and then from the torn labrum. So like last fall, things started to click right there at the end of September. Oh, beginning of September, going into the fall. So that got me really excited for Javelina. And ever since then, I've just been trying to be as consistent as possible. Like I haven't had too many huge training weeks, but everything's been around 80 to 100. And I feel like that's a sweet spot for me. And yeah, just stacking weeks on weeks on weeks I think that's what leads to success in ultra running, or really any running for that matter. I did plan my year out somewhat. So I ran to Tonka. It was just a fun race, in January, right before a big ice storm came through. So I was lucky to get it in before that happened. But new course, new race, but it was a ton of fun in a beautiful area. You're right there on the border of West Virginia and Virginia. Really enjoyed that. Shout out to Death to Tyrants Race Company. They did a great job with the first year race. Ended up breaking 4, which was definitely the goal. And I guess the fun story about that race was it was, I think, 12 degrees at the start line. And you start at, I would say, 1,500 feet elevation and you run straight up to like above 4,000. So who knows how cold it was up there, but it was very cold. Like, I don't typically wear tights when I run, but I wore tights on top of my half tights, on top of whatever, like everything else I was running with. And I never felt warm whatsoever. Also experienced Hellgate eyes for the first time at that race. My right eye went blurry for the whole time we were on the ridge. So that's probably 15 miles. And then once I started descending, I got my vision back. So shout out to blinking, because blinking is good. But yeah, super fun race. Really, really happy with that one. And then I actually ran another race that doesn't show up on Ultra Sign Up in March. I was recruiting up at the Ohio Indoor State Meet near Spire and saw there was a race in Worcester. And I was like, well, sure, I have enough time to wake up early, drive to Worcester, and then drive back. So I ended up racing the Super Bowl 50K. And I got to race Arlen Glick, which is a lot of fun. He's a good friend. And it kind of surprised him because I didn't tell anybody I was coming. I just showed up. And then once he saw me, he's like, oh, shoot, we're going to have a race today. So a lot of fun racing him. And actually got some money out of that too, which is cool. And then let's see, Highland Sky was the next race, and then Burning River was just like last week. So it's been a good little race season so far. I tried to scale it, so start with the 50Ks, work up to the 40, then the 50. So hopefully that coming up will be 100K, then 100 mile potentially, maybe a 50 mile.
Hey, Chris, remember that time Caleb was on our podcast and he said he started a race at 1,500 feet, went to 4,000, lost his vision, and said it was fun? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
I remember that.
So, hey, Caleb, so is your like when you create your race calendar each year, do you try to progress it like that every year? Start with a 50K, move up in distance, or is it just like that's was just this year what was available and what you had in mind?
It was mostly just what was available because once again, we're working around track season and cross country season. So in a perfect world, I would have loved to have done the Rim to River 50K, the Cabin Fever 50K, because all my friends ran. It looked really fun. It's a very fast 50K, but we were heading to Birmingham for our indoor conference championship, so I can't really get out of that one either. So I just chose the race I could go to because we had an off weekend that weekend, and sure enough, it was just something fun. But yeah, typically it's just wherever I can fit in. I do, if in a perfect world, I would like to start with a 50K because in my brain, I like to train hard, train for longer, to race short to get that feeling back, and then just progress. And, you know, as the summer goes on, it's easier to get longer long runs in. Just you're able to wake up and have more daylight and whatnot. So it's a little bit easier to stack those big weekends. So typically I save the 100-mile, 100Ks for later, like the fall. But not saying I don't run them in the spring. It's just a little bit easier to work around.
So, coming from a team aspect, whenever you were in middle school, high school, college, running, and you've talked about, some of your running friends, like you mentioned here and there. When you train, do you usually train by yourself or do you train with a group?
Sometimes I train by myself, but for the most part, I am a big run bum. If somebody's running, I'll try to latch on to whatever they're doing. So yeah, I'm very blessed with some great people in Huntington, West Virginia. Not only do I have our current team, the cross country team, where I run with the men and women's team, but like we got the Bargain Boys. We got Dan Green, Ryan Ransby, Logan Kirby, and Jack Pennington, all of which have their accolades that are really good, and they're so much fun to run with. Like wouldn't wake up at 5 a.m. for anyone else really, because whenever you start your day off with a 5 a.m. run with those guys, your day's so much better. Like it's hard to wake up early, but then once you get out there, you have so much fun. So it's really not even that hard to get up because my best friends are the people I want to run with. But also like Holly Ann Swan's getting back fit again. So having her run, that she's been a great training partner as well every now and then. Chris Swan, her husband, he's fun. He usually cycles more, but every time he runs, it's a fun time. We have some other ultra runners like Brandon Perry, who he has his awesome goals. Usually, he just tries to push the limits of going to the hardest races known to man and doing those. Don't know why he does that. I mean, not that I get to run with him very often, but like Adam Perry, he's in Lewisburg, West Virginia. He's a hoot. And then actually meeting new friends. Actually, I ran in Fayetteville just because of an Instagram message the other day. A guy gave me a shout out and said, "Hey, every time you want to run in Fayetteville, let me know." So we set up a time and ran 20 some miles, and it was a lot. It was a blast. So meeting new people is really fun too. But yeah, I try to run with people as much as possible. I can't do it alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think Adam, when he described the run bum, right? I mean, that's pretty much you and me. You know, neither one of us is running at 5 a.m. unless one of us says, "Hey, you want to be on the towpath at 5 tomorrow?"
Right, right.
Yeah, and there's been times where I'm like, Adam, somebody just reached out to you and wants to run, and you go meet this stranger on the canal to.
I've done it before. No,
Yeah.
I figured if they're gonna murder me, like I don't know, I could run faster maybe, or like I don't know. It's usually good.
They're probably not going to run though.
Right,
Runners
right.
are criminals, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that
On that one.
All right.
If anyone wants to run, just reach out and we'll do it. It's fine.
or if you want to murder Adam, I don't know.
All right. So, Caleb, everyone wants to know when we get people that are as successful as you, is there a secret workout or a secret series of workouts that you do? Is there one out there that you really love that you think it prepares you for this kind of success on the trail?
A good question. So I find the best success or the best feeling, I guess, like the feeling of being really fit, not so much from workouts, but from long runs. I think just getting out on the trails and being out there for 4 to 7 hours is the best thing you can do. And then if you do back-to-back long runs, I'm kind of old school in that, where I think that's super beneficial. But as for like workouts, I think if you can pair a hill workout with some type of tempo or interval, that's usually a really good stimulus because you're getting both worlds where you're getting some like strength and neuromuscular strength with, either pressing on that lactate threshold or VO2 max or whatever you're doing. So a lot of times, like we do a lot of 400s just because they're simple, but we also have a hill leading up to the track at Huntington. So you can do some great hill reps and then go off and do like 16 by 400. I think that's a pretty good workout. But the classic, I think for me, it's really simple and really easy to do mentally is one-on offs. Doing that 20 to 30 times. I mean, it's a lot of volume, but it's fun because you can dictate how fast you go. No one's telling you have to run a certain pace or anything. It's just whatever feels right. So a lot of times I'll kind of start off maybe 6 minute pace and work my way down to like around 5 minute pace. Just depends on how we're feeling. Now, I will say don't let Holly and Swan dictate that because it tends to be a lot faster on the recoveries where you're basically just running a tempo the whole time because we'll go 5:15, 5 flat pace for the ons, but then like 5:45 for the offs, and that's not really an off in my opinion. So she likes to flaunt how fit she is sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good workout. When you said one on, one off, Katie looked at me and said minutes or miles.
Yeah, minutes for sure.
No, that's not how that works. I said minutes, right? 1 minute, and Adam's like, yeah, or miles. And I was like,
Miles?
20 to 30 miles? 20 on, 20 off? That's
He
a
did say
That'd
he
be a
likes to
crazy
do long
workout.
runs.
Right, right. Hey, Caleb, so when you're getting ready for one of these ultra races, especially like maybe one that you've done before the last few years, or like let's pick Highland Sky, for example. So what's like your race strategy going into some of these? Are you racing for time? You probably know a lot of your competitors before you get there. So are you like doing your homework, researching, or are you just going out to do your own thing?
If it's a race like Highlands, yeah, where my ultimate goal is to get the course record, which may or may never happen. It is all about time. And that's a little frustrating because there's so many things that can affect the time, like weather. It could be very wet or it could be really hot, it could be really cold. There's a lot of things that go into it. And also just whoever like last year, for example, we had a really good field where like Butch was in it and he won. Logan Kirby was right there. He was pressing the pace the whole time. So it was a good year to run fast, even though the course conditions weren't optimal. Because we had so many good guys racing each other. Whereas this year, I mean, I had Kent B, but other than that, there weren't many people even close. So it's more like a time trial. And if you're like me, it's really hard to keep pushing when you're not having somebody to push you. It's easy to let off the gas and really focus on not getting hurt, especially in that race, because when you're running across some of those rocks, you don't want to turn your ankle. Now, if you're racing somebody, you kind of throw that out the window and just run hard. But if I'm by myself, I'm like tiptoeing across some of these boulder fields and whatnot. So a little bit different now. If I'm going into a race, like say, like whenever I went to Grindstone, I wanted to do my research on everybody, but also that freaks me out because I start having imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh shoot, like I'm racing against David Roche. How am I going to race against him? So I didn't look at anything. Even whenever I first learned of Butch, it was because we ran like parts of the course over a weekend, and then he went in and broke all my course records that I set on like that weekend. So I had to like not stay like be on Strava for a while just because I didn't want to see all that. It just make me like think about it too much. I don't typically do my research on the people just because it's not going to help me. I just want to focus on my own race and have my plan set and just do my thing.
So it looks like a lot of your races that you've run are here in West Virginia, but you've done traveling out west and other places. What would you say is the biggest difference you see in maybe in the trail running between here in West Virginia along the East Coast and what you see out west?
Yeah, I think it's just the amount of people that running fast. Whenever you go out west, it's always really competitive. Like Gourd Waterfalls, Bandera, obviously like the Black Canyons and the Javelinas and Western States. So it's just different because I feel like some of our athletes here in the East Coast are just as good as some of those on the West Coast, but there's like 4 times as many of them. So you're constantly racing somebody, whereas like here, you already know how good everybody is. You're not getting any surprises out there. So except for maybe JFK. JFK is the exception. Yeah, so like Gorge Waterfalls was really fun because like I had no clue who was in the race. I was just out there running hard. So parts of it are super technical and very Highland Sky like, but then other parts are really flowy. Obviously, Javelina is a like carpet track almost, so it's not technical at all. But although I will say those are usually the scary ones where you fall sometimes because you trip on like the one rock out there. Actually, like, my pacer, she fell last year because she was talking so much and she just clipped her toe. Yeah, I think it's just the amount of competition rather than the quality of it. I mean, obviously you have some of the best out there, but I do think we have some really good athletes here. So like here coming up, I have to decide if I want to do grindstone or Hurricane 100K. And it's really tough because like grindstone, if you get top three, you can go to UTMB or CCC or whatever the race you want to do. But I think Hurricane 100K might end up being a little more like competitive just because of the people coming. Like Alex Miner, especially, he's a former athlete of mine, but he is on a tear as well, where he, won his first 100-mile race he's ever done up at Rabid Raccoon, ran like 16 hours and broke a Dan Green record. So super cool there. And then he just got third place up at the Ragged 75, the 50K portion. So he's got $2,000 and race against some really fast people. So I have to decide, do I want to do the local race as more competition, or do I want to go to Grindstone and possibly like get that auto qualifier for CCC or UTMB? I don't know. I mean, it's just, I love Grindstone's trails. I mean, that's one of my favorite places of all time. But it's also Hurricane's my backyard and my hometown. So I don't know. Have to make a decision here soon.
There's some pretty good prize money with Hurricane 100 too, as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. Last year I won $4,500.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. It funded by Javelina trip.
That's awesome. All right. So, hey, Caleb, you've had some just fantastic race experiences, and we've touched on some of them, but do you maybe have one favorite race story or race memory that you could share with our listeners from over the years?
That is so tough. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. I think that the one that comes to mind, I'll have a tie. I'll have a tie. So Canal Corridor 2022, it's my third 100 of all time, like ever. And it was my first fast 100 I was ever done. So I didn't know really what to expect with it. Because like rim to river, I had done twice prior. And when you're on a trail, you're running hard, but also you're kind of limited to how fast you can go based on the trail. So the technicality holds you back some, or the vert, or whatever. If you're running a flat 100, it's all whatever your body can do, and that's a scary thing because if you go out too fast, you're going to blow up, and then you're walking it in, or maybe DNFing. So that was a really tough thing to go into because I just had no clue what my body could do. But I did train really well for it. I had a couple good leading races that I had done prior to with Hurricane 100K, and actually a road race that I had done too. So I had a goal of breaking 13 hours and just ran my own race and ended up running behind a guy who led the entire race until mile 99. And that's when I caught him. And I at the time, I really was like frustrated with myself because like, it doesn't seem very honorable to pass somebody in the last mile of a 100-mile race. That's not the way I wanted to do it, but it's just the way it worked out. Ended up dropping him in the last mile, and at that point, you can't get passed by him again. So I ran one of my fastest miles in a 100-mile race at the last mile. But yeah, I ended up running 12:40, and it was a really cool experience running that fast and kicking in to win the race. So that's one. And then the other one would be Grindstone, just because how nervous I was going into it. Once the race started, it felt like everything just flowed really naturally. And racing against some really fast people. Golden ticket race in what I would say my backyard, even though it's like 4 hours away. It is just so much fun. Racing against Caleb Bowen, David Roche. I mean, so many good people. So being able to get second in that was really cool, and getting a golden ticket. So may never get a golden ticket again, but at least I have one. So, and it's the only East Coast one for a while. So
I want to swing it to the opposite end. So we just talked about like great moments of these races. What's like a low moment that you can think of? Because you're doing these 100 milers and 50 milers, 100 Ks. There's got to be one moment at least where you are struggling, and how did you get through that and fight through it and continue to finish?
Oh, I've had plenty. I've had several bad races. There's two, I'll say two as well. So Western States was so devastating just because, that's like the dream. You qualify for it. You're the only East Coaster there, really. And like, it's like you're David and Goliath, going against Jim Walmsley, Caleb Olson, some of the best people in our sport. So I put so much pressure on myself to do well because I knew that was like all eyes were on me. Well, not really on me, but like everybody from our neck of the woods was like I knew people were cheering for me, and it just felt like I was letting them down throughout the entire race. So trying to fight all that negative self-talk, which is I know is not the right answer, but like once it starts happening, it's so hard to stop it, especially when you're starting to feel rough. You start throwing up, you start, thinking about all the things you should have done, in the previous miles that like, yeah, I should have drank a lot more water, should have maybe not taken that Morton gel, and all those things. But once we got to what was it? Forest Hill, I kind of gave up on all my goals except the finish because, we flew all the way out there. I wasn't hurt. I was just not having a good day. So it ended up, not really trying to race anymore, but just trying to run as well as I can to get to the finish line. And Dan Green was able to pace me for that. So that was really special to have him there, cross Rucky Truckee River, get to Green Gate. Now, the bad thing was I was supposed to have crew at Rucky Chucky and then at Green Gate. However, there was a forest fire that prevented my crew to getting to Green Gate. So we ended up not having our headlamps. One actually, I ended up getting one because one of my crew brought one that it was just in his pocket. So I got lucky, but Dan unfortunately didn't have a headlamp. So I had to leave him with about a mile and a half to go to the next aid station where Scott Jurek and Hal Corner were there. And thankfully they were able to help him out, like give him a cell phone, call my parents, and get him back to the finish line. But yeah, he's just wandering in the woods by himself in the dark for about a mile and a half. So that's probably a story he doesn't want told, but it's what makes ultra running fun. My second story of me having a low point was the Bandera 100K in 23. So I had just come off the Canal Corridor high, thought I was the king of the world because I ran a 1240, and then I got humbled so fast. Bandera is a tough course because it's very technical and rocky, but also it rained for 20 minutes before the race started, and then it got really hot. So there's a steam that kind of just rose during the race. And it was just one of those humidity type races where you're not really used to it in December or January. So it just wreaked havoc. And I threw up first loop, ended up picking up a pacer that wasn't even supposed to be for me. Sarah Beal from Ohio, who now lives in Colorado, she was supposed to pace one of her friends, but they already dropped out. So she just paced me. But then she was having stomach issues. So we were just fighting for our lives the whole time. And at one point, I wanted to quit. I was at an aid station where Jamil Curry and his film crew were right there filming me. I'm talking to my dad about quitting, but I couldn't do it on camera, and they kept following me around. So my dad just told me to get out of the aid station, and sure enough, had to keep going at that point. So thanks to Jamil Curry, I finished the Bandera 100K.
It's amazing. The things we will do not to get ourselves embarrassed, right? Like that human
Yeah,
pride it's strong, but that's great.
you, you can't let everybody watch you DNF. Like that's
Yeah.
just you gotta do it off camera.
We've been discussing a lot of different races that you've run during this podcast. What would you say is one race every ultra runner should experience at least once?
There's a lot of good ones. So it's hard not to go with the easy answer, Western States, because it is so cool and so much hype. Like the whole week prior to it is so much fun. And I think it's more fun for the crews than it is for the athletes until race day. And I think it's harder on the crews because the crews have to go through so much to drive to all those aid stations and deal with us whiny runners the whole time. But it's just an awesome course. So Western States is probably it's up there. But I would say Javelina too. Javelina is so much fun. And it's hard because how hot it is and how like fast you're going. So a lot of times that's potential for blow up. But just the atmosphere of everybody being there in their Halloween costumes, having fun, it's a blast. So I would recommend that one too.
All right. Well, Caleb, we really appreciate you coming on. I have one more question for you, and then I think Adam's got a few. But if you could give every trail runner one piece of advice before they lace up, what would it be?
It sounds kind of crazy, but care less about it and you'll end up doing better. And what I mean by that is don't dwell on it. Like it's hard not to because every ultra runner has to prepare and train and do all the things. But when you get to race week, worrying about the end result is not going to help you get to the end result. So trying to do your best to have fun with it is the best plan you can have. So whatever you have fun, like however you make running fun, is the way you should treat that race week. So try not to dwell on all the negatives. Try not to dwell on all the statistics and all the spreadsheets that you've made for your team. Like definitely go over them, but like you don't need to dwell on it. Kind of just let it happen, experience it, have fun, and then just do your best. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a fun thing we end up doing. We don't know why we think it's fun because it's ridiculous, but just go out there, enjoy nature, get the most out of yourself, and have fun with it. Like that's what running's all about.
It's just running, right? That's all it is, just running.
One foot in front of the other.
That's right. Hey, one thing we do at the end of each of our episodes is we have what we call the after party. So I'm going to ask you about 8 or 9, like kind of quick fire questions where you just give yes or no or one or the other, and you don't need to explain your answer, just whichever one you pick, and then we'll just go to the next question. So,
Okay.
what's your favorite race distance?
Okay.
Sunrise or sunset runs?
Sunrise.
Hills or speed work?
Hills.
Short shorts or half tights?
I used to be short shorts all the way until recently, but I've been going half tights this past year and it's worked out. So half tights.
All right, headphones or no headphones?
Hell no, no headphones. Not for it.
Coffee before a run or no?
What's that?
Coffee before a run or no?
Every run, yeah, even doubles.
Favorite post race beer?
That's a tough one. So yeah, I like amber ales a lot. That's not usually what you go for right after a race is over. Usually they give you like an IPA and it knocks your socks off.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just go with the Coors Banquet.
All
Since I have one right here.
Perfect.
It's got carbs, so it's perfect.
All right, what would you prefer, cold rain or 90-degree heat?
I guess 90-degree heat.
All right, last one, pancakes or waffles?
Hard to beat a waffle. It's hard to beat.
I have a question. Have you ever run a beer mile?
Oh,
No, I haven't. So it's a goal of mine. I'm scared because I've never chugged a beer before, so I don't know if I can like chug and run and chug and run and chug and run. I don't know. I feel like I'd be that embarrassing guy that takes like 3 minutes to drink the beer and then like I can run pretty well, but that doesn't matter. So my dad did one.
oh, your dad did one?
My dad did one before Western.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, we saw that. Like, what is it, the night before they do a beer mile?
Yeah, and so him and one of my crew guys, Ryan Ramsby, who's now the bargain boy, they both did it, and I will say like they had a blast. I think my dad underestimated a little bit, but he did well. But Ryan he really embraced it, and then had the beer cool down, which doesn't usually mean it doesn't bode well typically, especially at altitude. 3 or 4 beers after the beer mile, it sets in pretty quick.
Hey, before we let you go, do you want to give a shout out to your podcast and YouTube channel? Aren't you part of that with the Bargain Boys?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Bargain Boys. We've taken a little bit of a break just because Dan and Logan have been injured. It doesn't feel right not having them. I mean, they're still obviously around and Dan's training and whatnot, but like we're just taking a break, kind of doing some cool things. But I actually just edited a video. So Ryan's our main editor and producer, so we're trying to help out and figure things out. So trying to learn how to edit and stuff. So yeah, give Bargain Boys a subscribe, like all the videos. It's kind of fun. We're just a couple guys that like running and like showing off our great state and the best and worst parts of Huntington. That's what we do.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. It's been an honor to have you on the podcast, and best of luck to you and the Marshall team this year, and then best of luck in your own running. We'll follow you and figure out whichever race you decide to do in the fall. We'll follow you for that race and hope you do the best there.
Yeah, I think you guys will see me up your way in November, I believe. So that'll be fun.
All right,
Yeah.
that sounds good. Chris, anything else?
No, just again, thank you, Caleb, for your time and for joining us tonight. I mean, I'm honored that you recognized us from the Strava challenges. We certainly have enjoyed following your training and your team success. And so really, really happy we got a chance to talk with you tonight.
I do have one story before we go. So last year when we were doing those Strava challenges, there was one of them where I clawed back from like maybe like being fifth, fourth to like being in first until the very last day. And then you guys ran a backyard ultra on the last day, and I got past like the next day later. So I thought I won. I was all excited because like I clawed my way, and then like Oscar ran over 100 and some miles
Samir,
The-
to pass
yeah,
me.
Samir, yeah. That was like one of the, second or third. I remember doing like earlier challenges, and like I think I was going back and forth with you for a while, and I'd like wake up and see that you did like 15 miles, and I'm like, guess I'm doing 14 or 15, whatever it was, to pass you back. Like I'd like my training schedule was based on what you did like the night before, just trying to keep up with
And then
you. So
I was thinking like maybe if I waited later to post the run, that would like affect what you guys did. And
yeah,
well,
it was
it
all,
was a lot of fun.
yeah, it was good stuff. Well, yeah, thanks for being a part of that, and yeah, that was good stuff. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's all for today's episode of Tales on the Towpath. Thanks for joining us on another run down memory lane and along the C&O. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep your pace steady and your stories flowing.